Okay, hello everyone. This is the first in a series of makeup content, so to say. We got a little bit, people were in and out for some of the conference calls, and I was also traveling and I had some computer issues. So now I've straightened all that out, and I want to backtrack with a little bit of content. And this will be available as a video that you can watch in the group, as well as this recorded call here, which will be an MP3 that I'll send you the number. You can just dial in the number and listen to the recorded call. But for this particular topic, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, about 30 minutes or so. Just try to have a pen and paper handy, or if you have something to take notes with, like an iPad or iPhone. This is really a very important topic that, when it comes to training and physical fitness, sometimes it's really hard to clarify and make it known how important it is to really monitor calories in and calories out. And basically, how to ensure that you scientifically eat less and move more. I think because one of the biggest challenges we have is that a lot of times people think that the workouts they're doing are burning more calories than they're actually burning. And they think that they're, eating a little bit less, and really they haven't really reduced their calorie intake that significantly. So there are ways that you can actually scientifically ensure that that doesn't occur. But, aside from just typical calorie counting and things like that, I think it's important to make this a priority in terms of really understanding what you really want out of it, so that you can stick to the tactics of how to make it happen. So the first thing I want to cover here is, managing calories in and calories out during the holidays. And just like anything we do with setting up your RPM plan and all the other things we've talked about, it's very important to really have an outcome. So first thing you want to do is you want to get really clear about what you want to do in terms of making sure that, this important factor of weight loss is accomplished, whether it's 1 pound a week or 2 pounds, a week, and you want to maybe lose 8 to 10 pounds in a month or so. It's a very attainable goal, and we want it to lead to permanent natural weight loss. So you want to get really clear about what you want. If you want to lose a pound a week, then make sure you write that down and mark it down very clear. I want to lose a pound a week or 2 pounds a week, or I just want to ensure that I stick to these eating habits throughout this time and leading into the new year. Secondly, you must absolutely decide why and raise your standards to make this an absolute must. Because unless you make it an absolute must, it's just not going to happen. Emotion is the fuel that drives all our behaviors, as I discussed with the RPM fitness plan. Whether that's having energy to accomplish all of your goals, whether that's having better relationships, or making more money, or going on an incredible vacation looking good on the beach, or fitting in a new dress, or getting married, or anything that is going to resonate with you emotionally, just having vibrant energy. You have to really use those words that are making you passionate about raising this and saying, look, this is it. I'm drawing the line. I'm making this an absolute must. So that must occur in order for you to get any progress with this whole calories in, calories out thing. And lastly, the third thing is you absolutely have to practice new holiday rituals and habits. And, now we're entering time towards the first of the year. But hey, this isn't just for the holidays. This is for, your whole new year. And, again, one of the reasons why I created the Happy Holidays Hot Bodies program is so that people won't be, waiting until January 1st and then just jump up and try to think about these type of things. As you can see with the amount of content that we have, there's already a lot of content. So, and this is just to help get people to a basic understanding and a basic level of mastery, so that you can actually apply the steps that you need in order to get results. And so some people start on January 1st and it's already too late. It's too late to backtrack with all of this. And then by the time that they actually get some advice or some coaching or some training, and then it's like the middle of January, then it's the end of January, and then they're pretty much kind of bombarded by the things at the beginning of the year. So these 3 steps are absolutely vital. Get clear, decide why, and practice new rituals that you can take forward into the new year. Now, how do we get clear? I mean, obviously you can set the outcomes of I want to lose this amount of weight, or I want to have these measurements or fit into this particular outfit. But when it really comes down to getting clear, we have to break through some common myths that occur during the holidays. The first myth is that, obviously I've talked about it extensively, I'll wait until January 1st and hit reset. There's no magical thing aside from the ball dropping in New York that occurs between December 31st midnight and January 1st at 12:01. Basically, when you wake up, the weather's still going to be the same. You probably might change locations if you've been partying somewhere or traveling, and you may come back away from friends and family, and you might actually have some down emotions because you may have had such a great time during the new year. So this is absolutely the worst myth that people make in terms of your fitness and health when it comes to planning goals. Obviously, it is a good marking point, and I never would take away from that as using it as a point to start fresh, but it's going to lead you into some barriers if you don't make sure that you set some things up appropriately for that. The second thing is, a lot of people know that they're going to be eating a lot during the holidays and having a lot of chocolate and alcohol and cakes and candies and all kinds of crap, I guess you could say. And they say, okay, well, what I'll do is I just won't eat all day, then I'll binge and feast. Well, what happens with that is your body thinks it's starving. And if your body thinks it's starving, then when your body actually gets food, it's going to suck those calories in and retain those calories for as long as it possibly can. Now, when your body does that, it basically slows down your metabolism, and you're not going to be burning the food that you're taking in as fast. So don't try to do any dramatic things because you've gained weight over the holidays. The biggest key is to start setting a moderate schedule of eating 45 meals a day, which we covered in the call about eating habits. You want to set this schedule and stick to that schedule and try to eat these small, moderate meals throughout the day. The third myth is, after, let's say, people do the binging and feasting, a lot of people think, well, with the calories, no big deal. I'll just burn all these calories off doing cardio later. And I'm going to get into a primary example about this for this particular topic because it's one of the biggest illusions in fitness is that I've gone into gyms all over New York City and different gyms in LA and Miami and in different parts of the country. And no matter what gym you go to, you see all kinds of people just sweating it off doing cardio. And cardio is an amazing thing. But I guarantee about 80% of those people are only doing cardio for their workouts, meaning they go to work or they have, some time to work out, and they come in there and they run for 30 minutes on the treadmill and then they jump off. They're soaking wet. It looks like they've really done a lot. But when it really comes down to it, I'm going to get into this later, they've really burned very little calories and they haven't done anything to sustain the long-term calorie burn. Well, myth number 4 is drugs are far worse than alcohol. What I'm really saying here is that people just underestimate how much calories are accumulated with alcohol, whether that's beer, which is absolutely the worst, wine, or hard liquor. The amount of calories that you find in mixed drinks and all of these things just add up really, really fast. And this happens a lot during the holidays and especially around New Year's when a lot of people are drinking and celebrating. And hey, it's all about the level of fun that you want to manage and how you want to anticipate that. And if you could keep yourself to maybe minus a few extra drinks, then that would be wonderful. Maybe you could just set a little thing that you're going to have 1 or 2 drinks and not take it too far. But once people underestimate that and you add in the cumulative effects of all the things during the holiday, it's really just a recipe for a disaster. So be very careful about how much alcohol you consume. And this leads to what happens, and I've seen it happen with clients. Basically, people say, I'll probably get sick. It's going to be the flu season. I don't know how much of this I want to do because I might break down my body. Well, what's really going to happen is with eating too much, drinking too much, being out late, partying a lot, maybe doing a lot of traveling and things like that. Flu season is really an accumulation of all of the crap that we've taken in from, let's just say, from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's to the colds and the season of cold weather. Flu season is really accumulation of toxicity in our bodies that's occurred. And Tony Robbins has talked about this extensively in his day 4 of Unleash the Power Within, that there's no flu bug that's just flying around that all of a sudden catches people in January and February. Really, it's just the systematic breaking down of our body over a few months, really in the wintertime, that our body hasn't had a chance to rest and recover in order to prevent these viruses from getting in. So yes, of course, when there are viruses or germs spread it around, if your body is in a weakened state and your body's toxic and too acidic, then you're going to permit the germs to take over. So let me just go on here and talk a little bit about what happens with this calorie stuff. And I'm going to take myth number 3 so you can really get a full clarity on the illusions that occur with calories. Okay, a lot of people think that what's going to happen is that they're going to, burn all this stuff off later after eating all these things. Well, this was an example that I used in one of my presentations, and it was about a gentleman named Tom. Tom is working at a popular law firm, and he has a lot of cocktail parties going on during the holidays. And he says, you know what, I'm going to go and be the best on my best fitness behavior during the holidays. He has a few cocktail parties that week. He even has some parties with some friends and family. So he says he's going to have a little plan. Instead of eating 3 cupcakes or overindulging himself, he's going to set a little ritual. I promise myself I'm only going to eat 1 cupcake at any one party that I go to or whatever, right? So he tries to set this clever little plan up. Well, what people don't realize is the amount of calories that are in some of the common things that we eat. And I mean, it's kind of hard for me to eat 1 cupcake when I'm around people socializing, and you might even have 2 or 3. So I'm just giving you the baseline example here. 1 homemade cupcake is actually 295 calories, and there's still a fair amount of fat in that, but the biggest challenge is the sugar and the calories. Now, let's say you go out, somebody caters the party, and there's a big fancy bakery that brings in these lavish cupcakes. Well, those might be upwards of 585. So let's say he goes to one little simple party, it's 295. He goes to another, eats another bakery cupcake. So let's say by the end of a couple of days, that evening or whatever, he's eaten 3 cupcakes. 1 homemade cupcake, 1 bakery cupcake, and 1 store-bought cupcake. Well, that's a total of 1,178 calories, and it probably took him less than a minute to eat each of those cupcakes. So we're talking about 3 minutes of work, 3 minutes of eating. I don't know if you can call that work, but 3 minutes of activity have added 1,178 calories into Tom's life and on his body. And this is why we have the obesity epidemic in America, because it's so quick and it's so fast to consume calories, and there's so many calories in all the portions in the restaurants and all the things that we have around us. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic, because when I'm helping people, one of my biggest challenges as a personal trainer and fitness coach was to educate people on the real science of what weight loss is, because a lot of people beat themselves up and they've gone through all these yo-yo problems and everything. But there comes a time when you have to get clear about a problem, and you set the boundaries for that problem, and you figure out how exactly you're going to solve that problem. So, okay, we have a scientific evidence here that there's a lot of calories in a lot of stuff we're consuming. I'm taking cupcakes as an example here, but just imagine you have pancakes with syrup for breakfast. You have all kinds of, let's say you have some kind of, popcorn with all kinds of stuff on it, or chips, or you have some soda, or some of those sugary drinks. You go to a restaurant, there's a big plate of pasta, and you have a couple of cupcakes. I mean, we're talking about several thousand calories that you can consume in one day on the typical American diet. So just want you to really hone that in, that the calorie consumption is very quick and is very high and is very difficult to avoid. Now, so let's just say you do have awareness that working out is important for you and you're going to burn the calories like Tom. So the next day, Tom says, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to burn all these calories off like many people do. Now, if Tom weighs 200 pounds, I've calculated this with some other material that I have. If Tom weighs 200 pounds, he has to run 5 miles to burn 728 calories. That's at a speed of 5 miles per hour on a treadmill, jogging for 1 hour, if he just wants to jog for 1 hour. Now, if he wants to burn off the same equivalent of all the cupcakes that he ate there, he would have to run more than 10 miles in 2 hours to reverse the effect of 3 cupcakes. Not to mention the alcohol, coffee, and other holiday meals. And at many restaurants, they beef up the servings out of control. And I was talking with one person about this before, that sometimes it's even hard to turn down the extra because they'll give you like a deal at a restaurant or a catering place or whatever to have more food for less cost. So then you end up with all this food piled up and then people don't want to waste it and yada yada. So, I mean, this is what happens. 3 cupcakes, 1,178 calories. So his calorie intake is way over 3,500 on the day before. So what happens as a result? The real reality is that he's not working as hard as he thinks. And here's what's the real tragedy of it all. Let's say he hasn't worked out in 3 weeks and he doesn't have a consistent plan. He wasn't in the Happy Holidays Hot Bodies program. He wasn't thinking about all this stuff back in November. So he's tired. His knee hurts because his muscles are tight. He hasn't stretched. And his body's not adapting to this hardcore exercise. So he gets off the treadmill after 2.5 miles. And for many people, 2.5 miles is a fairly significant amount of distance to run. So guess what? He runs 2.5 miles, but he only burns 364 calories, which would only be the equivalent of 1 cupcake. Not only that, he wastes 2 hours in the gym chatting and hanging around in the spa. And then after that, he's so sore that he rests for 2 days. So can you see how the problem only increases with issues like this? So the big problem about this whole thing is that we delude ourselves and we give ourselves the illusion that we're working hard because it feels like we're working hard. And that's a huge problem. And the way that I say to people on how to resolve this problem is to really understand that no matter what you do in nature, when you're in nature, you're looking at, let's say you look at trees or something like that. It's not easy for trees to grow roots into the ground and then grow upward toward the sky. It's not easy for birds to fly. Like it's something that comes natural to them. But in other words, the bird has to defy the laws of gravity. So the bird has to eat what nature has predestined it to eat. The bird can't go eating, all kinds of extra crap, because if the bird eats extra crap, it'll weigh too much and its wings won't work and it'll hit flat on the ground. So nature has designed our bodies to take in water-rich foods. We're 80% water and very conservative amounts of food in order for us to operate. And what we have to do is realize that we have to understand that, yes, it is a little bit more of an uphill battle to create and sustain this greatness, because without it, we wouldn't be able to survive in a more primal way. There was also an example someone gave about, let's say, a bird that's getting ready to hatch from an egg. Well, if you just come by and you were to approach a bird that has just laid some eggs, and you see that some of the eggs are about to hatch, if you come by and you crack the egg for the little baby bird that's inside, then what's going to happen is the bird's just going to die because the bird hasn't built the strength. The egg basically presets the strength needed for that bird to get out and then be a live bird and fly away. So these are just concepts of nature that yes, it is difficult to monitor your calories and to eat well and to be healthy, and it's difficult to work out and exercise. But what those things are, they predispose us to what nature's going to demand of us in our bodies, regardless of what we do anyway. So why not meet it head on? So here's what happens. Tom's downward spiral to depression. He's frustrated. He enters the holidays already stressed and uninformed, hoping for the best. He had no plan. He had no Happy Holidays Hot Bodies program. He had no strategy. He had no tactics. So he gets the holiday blues, and he just basically ends up miserable. And he breaks his promise to himself, and his girlfriend, Lisa, breaks up with him. Ultimate pain. So he decides to drown his sorrows after the New Year's party with a big fat pizza to himself and a beer. Hey, I got work anyway. Let me just indulge myself and get ready. It's gonna be a year. I have a whole year. Sometimes people delude themselves. I have a whole year to now recorrect this. Let's just forget about last year. Well, that's just the ultimate pain. And I don't hope for any of you to have to go through that this year. But guess what? Tom's ex-girlfriend, and notice the ex there now that she has discovered that Tom has no control over himself. Lisa does a little bit better. She decides to take the Happy Holidays Hot Bodies program, and she has an upward spiral. Because she's happy, she uses her personal trainer and fitness coach's practical 8-week workout plan, sets up a strategy, has a new, wiser approach for the holidays, sets some specific times to work out. It's not too complicated. And so throughout the holidays, those days are the most enjoyable, fulfilling of her life. So she has ultimate pleasure. And that's what we really want to link up in our heads, is that by setting these plans and just dancing around these challenges we have of keeping ourselves on track during the holidays, whether it's food or working out, we're really striving toward ultimate pleasure and really rewarding ourselves for being the best energy we can around all our loved ones and things like that. So basically, that's the end of this whole presentation. I don't want to extend it for too much longer, but I want to just leave this open to you to really just think about how you've been monitoring your calories. And I want to give you a couple of tips that you can utilize, and some tools here at the end of this call that you can utilize to help you monitor this process. One, if you're really struggling with the calorie intake part, and that's just tracking your food and so forth, there's hundreds literally of tools online and on apps and things. I recommend 2 apps that are pretty good, and then one website that's pretty good. 2 apps are Daily Burn, which is actually a website and an app, and then MyFitnessPal, which people have had a lot of success tracking their calories to this. And the beautiful part about these is that they store this immense database of foods, whether it's grocery store, restaurant, and so forth, and they can help you break it down with every meal. Once you enter the foods in there, you can see how much of your calories are coming from protein, how much of your calories are coming from fat, and how much of your calories are coming from carbohydrates. Basically, it breaks it all down so you can see that you need to maybe take in more protein, and that fits right along with your eating habits we covered in the previous call. The second piece of equipment that I would really recommend you using is like a polar heart rate monitor. You can just get the basic kind, one that tracks your heart rate, and another one that tracks your calorie out expenditure. So what you can do is when you exercise, you can just hit the button and make sure that your calories are being tracked during your workout. Now, you may go for a run, you might do some boxing, you might work out with a trainer, but when you look at that calorie burn and you see it says 400 or 600 or 500, you're going to start seeing you're going to start associating how much physical work it requires to burn this amount of calories. Now, the benefit of this is twofold. One is you're actually getting more of an accurate picture of how much work you need to put in to get to the body that you truly deserve and want. In other words, the Ferrari buried under the snow. The second thing is that when you see how much work you're putting into your calorie burn and you're seeing how much effort that takes, you start thinking twice about eating that slice of pizza. You start thinking twice about the one cupcake that's worth one workout. Those are the things that really start making that dividing line. As if there was a fork in the road and you were starting to take the fork of the road toward the Ferrari buried under snow. That's where that fork in the road occurs, when you actually have the awareness and the tracking of what you're putting in your body and how much is being burned off. The other thing is that your biggest enemy is probably sugar and not fat, because your body burns sugar a lot quicker, and it burns sugar first. So a lot of times when you eat too much sugar, your body burns through sugar and it doesn't get a chance to burn through the fat stores on your body. When you are overweight and you have a lot of fat, just think about it like your body has already stored that fat. It's kind of storing that fat because it's not sure about its own energy usage. And that's really what's happening, is your body's hormones and things are out of whack because it's trying to figure out, do I need to hold on to this fat for the winter or the hibernation, or what is this person doing? What are you doing with all this fat? Well, what you need to do is realize that when your body's holding on to this fat, it needs to let it go. But if you take in too much sugar, the body can't utilize that fat to burn and use that as fuel. But when you eliminate a lot of sugar, your body's going to start burning that actual fat that's on your body and using that for energy, so that it can get you down to the ideals that you need. Okay, so those are the tools, the best tools to use. And, really just tracking is something by itself. Just simple tracking of calories in and calories out. Some have shown that even, I'm not advocating you do this, but without even exercising, some people show results simply by watching their food intake. So that's how powerful the food intake is. That's probably like 60 or 70%. So if you can watch your food intake, that would cover probably 60 to 70% of your weight loss, and then the other, 40 to 30% is going to come from working out. But if you do all three, you watch your food intake, you work out very vigorously and very hard, and you also track all of this, then you're going to see amazing results, and you're going to have that upward spiral. So this is the end of this call. Feel free to post questions in the group. Again, I very highly encourage all of you to support each other positively in the Happy Holidays Facebook group, because you're probably just a small handful of people working toward the same type of goals. And I know you all individually. I know you're all positive people that really want to make a difference in your fitness and your health, and you get a lot by giving. So I encourage all of you to give a little bit, share your tips and ideas with the other people in the group, and you'll be surprised at what you get back. So I'm signing off for now, and I'll be posting this call up as a recording, as well as the visual presentation slideshow, so that you can see it online as well. All right, until next time, happy holidays, hot bodies. See you next time.